Hi, it's Grace from the CSC, and I'm here today with Director and CEO of Quadron Cannatech, Rosy Mondin. Rosie is a favorite amongst the CSC team members, and this is the first day I'm getting to meet Rosie. And how are you today?
Good morning. Great. I feel great. But for the rain, excited for the Raptors. I kind of jumped on the bandwagon since I've been here a lot. So
go Raptors.
Yeah, it's kind of insane downtown. I'm basically living out of a hotel downtown right in the midst of it all. So yeah, I've definitely got washed up in the red fever.
How long have you been in Toronto for?
I've been coming regularly on and off now since probably October-ish, most regularly this year. I feel like I'm here pretty much every 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess it's time to maybe get a condo here somewhere.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that next. We actually have a great deal with the hotel that we stay at, so
nice.
It's become a nice second home. They treat us really, really well. I keep stuff here when I go home into Vancouver. So no, it's been a great receptive welcome to Toronto. I've really enjoyed it so far.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what brings you to Toronto?
Well, for this time, we're in the middle of a merger actually with our company, with another company called World Class Extractions. So that's been bringing me out here a lot as we work on that merger, finalize the merger, and also working on some deals that we have in the pipeline as we move forward with our extraction equipment and facility sales and build outs.
Great. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you also attended Lift & Co., Canada's largest cannabis conference held at the MTCC. What was your participation there?
Well, I spoke on Saturday on a panel related to Investing 2.0 and kind of what's coming next in the marketplace, especially with the advent of extracts, edibles, and topicals coming out. And of course, that's the area that we work in. So I was just able to talk a lot about what the investing retail public should be looking for, or at least our views on what could be happening. I mean, quite frankly, the whole legalization model really is going to come full force with these new regulations coming about, because we feel that really is the true industry as people move away from smoking dried marijuana cannabis products. So it's the markets are emotional. People can be emotional on it. So my message is always to people, just be patient. It's still a very, very new industry, and there's a lot of growth still to come. Lots of changes. Things evolve very quickly in this space. So just be patient was really my message when I was up on stage this weekend. Lift was great. It just brings everyone together. It's always like a big reunion as well. And it's just, for me, so amazing to see how much it's grown over these past years. We've been coming from the beginning. Lift in Vancouver were the very early days before even it got commercialized. So the exponential growth that conference has seen is quite phenomenal, actually, and just is a testament to where the industry is going.
That's great. And for our viewers, for those of our viewers that don't know, could you talk a little bit more about what Quadron Cannatech does?
Yeah, absolutely. So Quadron Cannatech, we came about, Quadron in name in 2016. We became a reporting issuer, but it really started before that, around 2014-15. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I have a criminology background, and I've always been a proponent for legalization. Anytime someone would listen to me, I would tell them why this plant, it's ridiculous that people are criminalized for using it. And I also am a consumer of cannabis. I have been my entire adult life. I'm not a big drinker.
When did you start consuming cannabis, do you think?
Officially? After high school?
After high school, okay.
I would say. I would just dabble in it. Of course, I spent a lot of time in university, which brings a lot of drinking along with it. And I can drink, but it doesn't usually sit well with me. I don't know if I have some sort of allergy. But it's not even just about that, getting drunk. I started consuming cannabis, and I just really liked how it just made me feel. It kind of would quiet my mind, as my mind actually can run 50 miles a minute. So I find that really, it depends on my mood and how I'm feeling, but it can quiet my mind. It can give me clarity. It can make me want to clean the house. Yeah. It can be meditative. It all depends on what cultivar or strain, as people know it to be. So I've always just been very open to talking about it. I've never really hid my consumption. I thought, I was a good advocate for it, given that I'm a professional, I'm career oriented, I'm focused, I have a very well balanced life, and I happen to consume cannabis. So it was just when I saw the whole regulation changing to commercial model, and a lot of my friends who were growers were looking to convert over, I saw the opportunity to come into this professionally, because again, I was also self-interested in seeing this legalized, because at the end of the day, here I am as a professional lawyer and happen to enjoy consuming this product, and very cognizant of the fact that every time I did consume it or offered it to a friend, or even purchased it for that matter, I was engaging in criminal activities. So with my professional designation and responsibilities, that was always a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, no, when I saw the criminology background, and then that you went to law school, University of Windsor, right?
Yeah, it was.
My sister just got accepted to University of Windsor. Yes.
No kidding. Yeah. Well, you know what? I have nothing but amazing things to say about the University of Windsor Law School. I chose it. I was accepted into Windsor right away. I was accepted into some other law schools as well, and I won't mention which ones they are, but really amazing ones in Canada as well. And I chose Windsor. They had a great access to justice program.
Yeah.
So what that meant was, in our law school, it wasn't just us coming out of university with our LSAT marks and our undergrad degrees and that's it. We had people in our class that actually had careers, and so they brought different viewpoints to our discussion and debates in class, which was really nice. So we had police officers, RCMP officers,
very cool.
A nurse, a dentist. I think there was a doctor in our class, so some business people as well, and plus all of us, undergrad students just coming out. So it was a really robust education. A lot of people in the law school were from other areas, so you were really forced to engage in the law school environment and community, which was fantastic. And my girlfriend and I actually started a charity run. It was the 5K run walk, 10K walk for charity. The Ambulance Chasers is actually what it was called, and I'm proud to hear that it's still going on to this day.
Wow, good for you. That's awesome. And so I want to just go back. So I just want to go back to, so we were talking previously about how Mondin is an Italian last name.
Yep.
I also come from an Italian background. And I just wanted to ask you, just personally, what it was like at a young age to be smoking cannabis and having it work for you to calm your mind. But Italian families are more looked at being more conservative side. So how did that sit in your family?
They didn't really know, obviously, because they don't understand it. It's only more recently, I think in around 2015, I brought my parents to a cannabis farm. I mean, I always started telling them about it, of course, and trying to get my mom to use different products for her arthritis and stuff. But of course, it was always, frowned upon, even though drinking was open in our house. That was the other thing. Things were always really open, so I never really saw drinking as a taboo, nor did I want to do it outside in a parking lot, because my parents were always very open. If you're going to do it, have it here at home with us, and a little shot of liqueur at Christmas was a norm. As far as I mean, I'm a very different. I'm a bit of the black sheep in the family. I'm not married. I didn't have kids. I'm very career focused. So I guess when they found out I was, enjoying cannabis, it wasn't a big surprise to them at that point. I'm quite independent that way. But my parents are very, very, very proud of me. They're very proud of what we achieved, and they fully understand this now. Their friends are getting into this, whether it's through CBD topicals or they're actually ingesting in capsule form. I mean, and that's the great thing for me, is being in this industry and being from, a conservative culture in this respect, that I get to talk about it and educate now, not only my family, but the extended family, and then they're talking to their friends about it. So it's come from being that taboo thing to now they embrace it, and I get calls from family members with questions about it. So I just think the change and openness to it is amazing. That's really what it's all about. Why we come out and talk about it as much as we do is really to normalize this and say, don't be so scared about this. Like, very, educated Canadians use this. Every socioeconomic class uses this product for a variety and myriad of reasons, whether it is medicinal, and it absolutely has medicinal properties and should be used medicinally, to those who use it therapeutically and those who use it completely recreationally. I mean, it's a plant, and I've always been an advocate for the fact that we shouldn't have restrictions around it, period. So I've never been a medical patient. I've never been a license holder, because I truly believe we should have access to it, of course with rules, and we are in Canada. So I'm really excited to see where the regulations will evolve. I was quite heavily involved with working with government at all levels when the regulations came about. So I definitely have some policy writing underneath me as well in my advocacy. So when we started Quadron, it was called Soma Labs. It was really how this all started back in 2014-15. And at the same time, I started an advocacy group called the Cannabis Trade Alliance of Canada, known as CTAC. Yeah, so that really is where we got our hands involved with working with the Liberal government. Just after actually pre-election and then post-election. So I was involved with the task force that went around and looking for recommendations. I worked with the government, with the bureaucrats, and I also worked quite heavily with the Senate for a good month and a half before when the debates were happening. I was called to the Senate to testify. So it's been quite a great road for me as far as being policy and doing the advocacy side officially, as opposed to standing on my soapbox, but at the same time also being able to focus on business and grow that forward into this great extraction space where everyone is finally kind of waking up to. And my whole team has been banging that drum since 2015.
Public Entrepreneur Magazine chronicles a bold and exciting new chapter in the Canadian Securities Exchange story. With over 500 public companies and share turnover measured in the billions, we're proud of our reputation as the exchange for entrepreneurs. Public Entrepreneur Magazine gets you up close and personal with a focus on topical stories and interviews with the charismatic entrepreneurs that make things happen. If you haven't already subscribed, be sure to get your free copy available on thecse.com.
And we're back with Rosy Mondin. Rosie, we were just talking about why oil extraction instead of flower.
Sure. So this is, again, going back to 2015, and it was the MMPR. And you had to apply for a license whereby everything was vertically integrated. So if you wanted to sell a product, you had to be a cultivator as well. That's the way the application was set up. We knew early days that we wanted to go into oil extraction because, quite frankly, the way cannabis was being moved around in the legacy market was basically duffel bags of weed. So either big garbage bags or duffel bags.
Do you actually see duffel bags?
Oh, yeah. In the underground market, that's how business was transacted. You got to remember, it was all illegal, right? So they had to do whatever they could, and hockey bags and moving product around that way, and Ziploc bags and those freezer-dried sealed bags was the way it was all done. But knowing it was going to a commercialized model where this was going into the public and it was going to be a legitimate business, moving product around in duffel bags wasn't going to cut it, right? Especially since we were moving to a framework that it was all focused on public health. So we looked at that and thought, well, we've got to think about a few things here. You've got to think about shelf stability of the product, because flower does degrade after a while if it's not taken care of properly and cured properly and stored properly. So there's transportability, there's shelf stability, but most importantly too, it's the ability to test and standardize the product. So we just saw going forward that it would move eventually to extracts. It just made sense. Mm-hmm. In public health, it made sense. In a commercialized model and business, it just made a lot of sense. So we decided to go down that route early days. What we did is we took advantage of a gap in the regulations, in that under the MMAR regulations, that were the personal production regulations, there was a case that came out. It was called Smith. And Smith allowed patients to convert their dried marijuana product into another type of derivative product. So that meant that patients weren't forced to smoke. So they could go to their designated grower and have that converted into an oil form. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we worked with a licensee to put our machine up under that license so that we could actually work our machine and make sure it did what it was supposed to do. So that was really early days. So that's where we were able to focus on getting the crude out using our CO2 machine, the first one that we announced called the Boss. And then also by having set up this lab, we were also able to work out the bottlenecks and figure out what was all the ancillary equipment that would also be needed to make that great value-add product. What happened was when we put together our first laboratory, we brought in a piece of extraction equipment. It was a CO2 extractor, and it literally, we had to take down walls to bring it in. It took about 3 months to get the thing operational, and you quite literally needed to be a PhD to run this thing. Again, knowing growers and knowing business, we just thought, well, this is crazy, because the whole point of this is you want it to be easy, and you really want to get these people to their ROI back as quick as possible. So one of my business partners basically set out to make a better, faster, more efficient machine. He had worked with CO2 for at least 15 years before that. He's worked on botanical extracts. He's worked on extraction of azathioxin, which is an extract from algae that is one of the highest antioxidants known on the planet. And so he set out to build something that turned out to be something that is incredibly efficient, uses a whole lot less real estate than traditional equipment, and functionality that you should just be a technician and you're able to run it. You can run up to 3 of our machines, the CO2 machine, the Boss, with just your iPhone.
It's called the Boss?
The Boss, yeah. That's the first machine we announced that we came out with. So that the
Did
Boss
you
is
name it yourself?
Actually, Shane did.
Okay.
And I loved it, so I was good with that. So we have the Boss, which has been out on the market for a good year now. We first initially showcased it in 2017, but we've made a lot of upgrades to it since then. And that's the thing, is because we work with growers, we respond to their needs. So we continuously are nonstop working on our machinery to continue to keep it upgraded and to continue to have it on the cutting edge. So that's
what are some of the demands that growers are looking for from an extraction machine?
Sure. So the efficiency, of course, is important, not using a lot of energy. We've actually made ours smaller, so the footprint is quite small compared to the other ones. So we take up less real estate in your facility. We've removed the need for a compressor. There's just so many great features to it. And like I said, it's also remotely monitored. The other thing is things shift really, really quickly. So whereas just last summer, being able to do 500 pounds, say, of throughput on your machine was sufficient, now they're looking at 2,000 to 3,000 up to 5,000 pounds in a CO2 machine of capacity in a month. So things evolve really quickly. So since we announced the Boss, we've also now announced a Big Boss, which is a co-solvent machine that's 3 vessels of 150 liters each. The Boss original one is a 45-liter vessel. We do pre-processing processes that allow for greater capacity in our equipment as well, and makes really great efficiency as the solvent flows through. And then we also announced 2 other machines in the Beast family of equipment, and that actually we had staff vote on a name. One, we were looking at the Mammoth and then the Beast, and I had both of my business partners with names, and I said, no, we got to take this to staff. Let's have some fun with this. So the Beast went out, and the Beast is our ethanol extractor. So right now in Langley we're working on, well, it's actually almost done, is our ethanol Beast, and then we've announced 2 Big Beast, which is the capacity is 5 million kilos on an annual basis, and then we'll have an in-between model in there as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're excited to start putting these out and get them operational in some of these farms. So the Beast, for example, the Big Beast, the ethanol extractor is primarily for hemp.
Okay.
So we'll be going down into the U.S. to do hemp extraction of CBD. We're not really interested in touching THC just quite yet, just because it's not national across the country. But CBD is obviously an easy entrant now with the Farm Bill having passed, and with each state putting out their hemp regulations to deal with the Farm Bill. So we have some interest, and when I get home, I should be papering some of these up, and we'll be down in the U.S. before long. So I'm really excited about that. That's on the hemp side. And then we're continuing to work with strategic partners here in Canada to set up the extraction facilities, for which we'll have a financial interest in them. So ultimately, the end goal would be to do contract manufacturing. That's really, really where we want to be. It's something I have been saying since day one. It's why we've operated labs as well, so that we know how to make excellent product all the way through. We also have a subsidiary that's been working on vape pens since 2015, and we work with manufacturers directly in China on that. We make sure the pens work efficiently with our processes and our oils, and I think we have some of the best pens in Canada, to be honest with you, and we've been working on them for quite a few years. So I'm really excited to be able to start getting our intel and know-how out there and working with clients and getting their products out.
That's great. And just lastly, you're seen as quite an advocate for the recreational use of cannabis in Canada, and also can be seen on the capitalist side, just because you have the business and you're obviously looking to make revenue. And how do you balance those two kind of positions?
I think they actually really go hand in hand, because at the end of the day, the whole idea was to legalize. We want to get this product out to the masses. So now it's a matter of making sure that the regulations reflect it in such a way that businesses can carry on, that patients can continue to have access for this product. We don't want to see the medical side be diminished in a few years, and that people can who want to enjoy it recreationally can also get their hands on products. So the advocacy, I think, as a business leader, especially in a new industry like this, that we really are building from scratch. Like, let's face it, this has been an industry that's been in the underground for decades. Cannabis has been illegal since 1923. It's been vilified. There's a lot of myths around it. So I think legalizing, it just goes hand in hand with the business side of things. As a business leader, I think it's very important to make sure that you're working with government to ensure that we have the best policies available that work not only in the public health interest, of course the government is looking to protect, but also that it works well for business. So that's why I think it's just so important that as a CEO that I'm out there working with government, because again, before this all happened, many government members hadn't even seen a cannabis plant before. Yeah. So we have to remember that this really came from the underground. We haven't seen anything like this since prohibition of alcohol, and none of us were really around for that. So it's a big deal, and this really is Pandora's box, where you see now psilocybin becoming decriminalized in some U.S. states. In the UK and in Europe, they're doing trials on psilocybin and then MDMA for depression and anxiety. So, and also, as we see worldwide, CBD is opening up around the world, which is also the first step towards THC.
People are even talking about magic mushrooms now.
Yeah, exactly. Psilocybin, exactly. Yeah. So it's all starting to open up, and it really starts out with this. So we're not going to go backwards. We're going to continue to see this opening up. We're going to continue, of course, to see more and more countries come forward on the CBD side, because, really that is the biggest market. It's way bigger than THC. Not everyone will want to go out and get high or necessarily use that for pain medicine, but they will turn to CBD. CBD has, it doesn't get you high, it doesn't have the psychotropic properties, but it absolutely has the medicinal benefits. It helps for pain that some people state. It just helps for general well-being. The pet health industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
I didn't even know it was going into pet health.
Of course. In the underground, it already has. In the legacy market, so in the U.S., it's already happening. So that's big. I mean, every mammal has the endocannabinoid system in it. So I really see this, dogs, vet health. I was mentioning to somebody, I can eventually see how we could see this in horse racing, for example, for joint rejuvenation. Right now they give horses, I know of one drug called Lasix, and it helps for blood coagulation. What if they can find some amazing uses for this to help these animals, because they're really getting stressed when they're racing. So what if CBD can help with them? What if we see it more, as more trials and more research is done in the cosmetic health field, right? I mean, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry as well, where people are looking to non-invasive methods to for anti-aging and skin rejuvenation. So can we see CBD mixed in with fillers, say, one day that a lot of women are turning to, people are turning to? I think it's just endless. And this is the exciting thing about legalization, is that now we're able to research this plant where we were never able to do that before. That's really hindered the development of business. So now everything is just catching up. So back to your question about how to balance the advocacy and the being a CEO, I truly, truly say that it has to go hand in hand, and that's the only way we're going to move this forward to true legitimacy.
Wow, I'm really happy I asked that question, because you went full force there.
I kind of like to talk sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it. So with all you being a part of the history of the legalization of marijuana, you've seen a lot, as discussed, just like the prohibition of alcohol. It's a very historical thing. Do you think you'd ever write a book about what you've kind of seen?
Oh, that's something I've actually never thought about before. Would I? Could I? Yes, absolutely. That would be really interesting. I can't imagine I would do it on my own, though. Just like pretty much every project I've done it in collaboration with people, because at the end of the day, I don't know it all, and I really rely on those around me to kind of fill in the gaps. So when I put together the first policy paper in 2015 to actually segregate the licensing, no one had done that and was talking about it in Canada. It was what was happening down in the US, and it just made sense from an industry point of view. I mean, pretty much every industry has segments. So for example, we knew we were in extraction, but we knew we didn't want to be farmers. So like in the wine industry, if you buy your bottle of wine, you don't care or know whether that vineyard is growing their grapes or they have a great agent. So it's the same thing with cannabis. So you just needed to know that you could source really good product. So I had that down, but I also knew I wanted to talk about laboratories, and I wanted to have a nursery category, and then the licensing, distribution, so all of that. So I went to experts across the board, across Canada, to help me put together this policy paper with their thoughts, and I kind of organized it all. Same thing when I worked with the Senate. I was asked to help out with some information that was coming up from some legalization groups out of the US, and I did the same thing, and I went across Canada to about 22 PhDs and organized a paper to present to the Senate, and that was organized in like 2.5 weeks. So that was quite an undertaking. So yeah, could I write a book? Yeah, I've seen quite a bit from...
Maybe a dictionary?
Yeah, and that would have to appendix, starting from the early days. I mean, I've been at this for a very, very, very long time. So like I said, I've had a lot of friends who have been in the underground growers, whether they were legal or not, under an MMAR, and many were also operating without one. I've been to dispensaries from back in the day. I'm from Vancouver, so we've had dispensaries very, very early on. One of my closest girlfriends in the space is Hillary Black, and she started Canada's first Compassion Club. So of course I've been through there. So, along with those advocates who are really, really frontline, I think we've all seen a lot and different perspectives on the space. So yeah, it would be nice to collaborate on something for sure.
Great. Well, you know what? The cannabis industry and everyone here at the CSC is lucky to have you as an expert to turn to and ask questions. And I'm really happy that I got to get to know you more on the CSC podcast. Thank you for coming in today.
It was really great to be here. Thanks for having me, Grace.
Hi, it's Grace from the CSC reminding you to make sure to follow us on social media for the latest updates on our listed companies as well as new listing alerts. For more in-depth content, be sure to pick up our free quarterly magazine, Public Entrepreneur, available online at thecsc.com.